Now it's our turn to, sorry for the words, but put our balls on the table.
Remember, kids, this is not how you play hockey. It's just ugly.
I like it.
Screw you guys. I'm doing this.
You know what? I love ice cream too.
Go back to Canada, Guy Lafleur.
Game on!
Yeah, game on.
Hello and welcome into the Hockey Show right here on Mile High Sports, Colorado's biggest and best live hockey radio show. JJ Jerez, that is I. Ryan Bolding of NHL.com.
That is me.
That is you. Thank you for joining us today, Ryan.
I was on time. That's like 2 weeks in a row, maybe 3. Have I been late in the playoffs? I don't know if I have. Go me.
It's interesting how the playoff format is working out for us this year. I feel like it hasn't been like this in years past.
I agree.
To where it's almost, every Saturday, it's like we're basically looking ahead to the next round, right? I mean, we've got a handful of teams already eliminated, handful of teams going to be eliminated by the end of, let's call it Monday, and we'll already be looking ahead to round 2.
We'll already be in round 2.
Yeah, and by the time we're here next week, it'll be round 2, and we'll be in the thick of it. And who knows if we're still going to be covering NHL games or not, because, of course, there's a Game 7 tomorrow with the Colorado Avalanche and the Seattle Kraken right here at Ball Arena, 7:30 p.m. time on a Sunday. Tight. Thank you, NHL.
Thanks, I hate it.
As we start every
I want to point
show,
out that there were there were 2 p.m. games and such last Sunday.
they hate us.
Yeah. I blame the Nuggets.
I don't think the Nuggets have anything to do with this.
Are they not at home tonight?
They are at home tonight.
They're at home tonight and Monday.
Yeah, they could have the court off of there by
I just felt like
2 a.m.
blaming them made the most sense.
All right, let's blame them. So, yeah, with that, we can get into our matinee money picks. I know you have a lot, so I'll start with my one simple little parlay here. My parlay, actually, I want you to start with yours because mine.
Oh, here we go. He waited until I took a sip of coffee and then was like, actually, I'm going to call mine matinee evening money.
Matinee evening money, and mine's going to kind of go right into the next conversation. It's going to flow right through it. So
Perfect.
Let's get you out of the way, and then we'll worry about the ones that matter.
He is a leaf on the wind, everyone. For me, I'm going to preface this by saying that I was up, and now I am not. I have gone 0 for the last 26 bets I've made. I went and counted last night in my sorrow and sadness. But I like to do
it's almost as bad as the Avs power play.
Yeah, it is. It is almost that bad. It's actually worse. But I like to do like 5 or 6 picks a night. So just so you don't think, wow, that's like a year's worth of picks at my $5 price point. So I let's go into it. Mitch Marner, first goal tonight, plus 1,600. I actually think I hit that the last time I bet it. Seems unlikely. I don't know what it is about Toronto not scoring first, but they've got a little bit of an avalanche-itis going on there.
You got to ask some AI. I've seen some AI over the last couple weeks. Pick first. It has been in the NBA who scores first basket, but AI is getting it right. Maybe see what they have to say.
Buddy, we all know what happens when Skynet becomes sentient, so I don't mess with AI. Next, I've got anytime goal scorers. Braden Point, Mika Zibanejad, who dude has no goals, and Adrian Kempe, dude has all the goals, plus 1265. So that's a Hail Mary. It's not quite the Mitch Marner plus 1,600 Hail Mary, but it's a Hail Mary. This one, surprisingly low odds for me. The Devils to score the first goal, Jack Hughes to score anytime, the Rangers to have under 2.5 goals, and the Devils to win is only plus 500. I mean, the odds in that game are both minus 110, I think, for both teams, right? So it's pretty even who's going to win it. Maybe the Rangers are a little favored, but I don't know. Then I took the Rangers, the Lightning, and the Kings at plus 727.
Interesting. You got the Lightning tonight.
A lot of the parlays that were offered to me were, I think, too hard to hit. You know, like I've been making some where it's like Jason Robertson to get 1 point and Mikko Rantanen to have 2 points and Brent Burns to have an assist. And then Brent Burns not having the assist is the thing that sinks the bet, right? So I just figured, let's look at a couple of upsets here. Like the Rangers are the lower seed, the Lightning are the lower seed, the Kings are the lower seed. Let's take
betting
chance.
against the crowd, or maybe even betting against your initial intuition.
Well, every time I bet the higher seed, they've been losing. I'm 0 for my last 26. The last time I hit was a plus 100, plus 200 Patrick Kane to score a goal, I think. And that one was like a Hail Mary that landed.
I'm betting with the crowd on mine. So first I'm going to start with Connor McDavid over on shots. Of course, that game's not till 8 p.m., so it's not a matinee money pick, but it seemed like the safest pick tonight because I don't know what's going to happen in these games. I think there's a lot
I thought you did.
up in the air. I don't. I didn't ask AI either. So I think it's too hard to pick those with putting money down. Sure, I'd pick them if there was nothing involved, but I don't take any matinee money bets, or I don't give any matinee money bets that I don't take myself. So
Same. I put money on all of these.
right. So I got McDavid's over on 3.5 shots. You know he's going to be shooting. He's going to try to get his team through. Plus, they get a lot of power plays. LA has been so undisciplined in that series, and it's been killing them. But I'm going to add that with the Nuggets, minus 2.5. Why minus 2.5 when the line right now is minus 3.5, JJ? I don't understand. Well, it opened at minus 2.5. All right? And then I've been following the conspiracies in the NBA
I
a
can
lot
just
lately.
see from your eyes and the look you're giving me that we're going in a tinfoil direction.
Not only that, we know that the Mafia is big on NBA bets, right? So when the Mafia's chipping in, you know there's probably something there. So the line already has moved from Nuggets 2.5 to Nuggets 3.5, which tells me, hey, the wise guys, the mobsters are seeing something, or they got the ref in their pockets or something, and the line has moved because so much money has been going on in the minus 2.5 that it moved to 3.5. So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to join the 2.5. Worse odds, but when you parlay them with the McDavid, plus 175. Crazy, right? I know. With that, though, refs in the pockets, I wanted to get into a conversation about refereeing so far this playoffs because there's been a lot of chatter about it so far. And, of course, you know, from each fan base, they all think that their team is being hosed and getting got by the referees. But Greg Wyshynki did a dive into this, friend of the show. Actually, I think if the stats are correct, he's been on the show as a guest more times than any other guest we've had. So
Leading friend of the show.
the best friend of the show, I would say. Yeah, I really liked his article about the refereeing so far in the playoffs. But my biggest takeaway from that article, I know you read it this morning as well, is simply it feels like the answer is that we have no answer. This is just the refereeing you're going to have to put up with for eternity, and until somehow they figure out AI and to get them involved in refereeing, you're just going to have to deal with these mistakes that human referees make.
So here's how I look at it. The number one thing that this article told us is that people are people and officials are human, and like the game is played by people, and so there isn't a perfect solution. Just like life, there is no perfect solution to any of this, right? I do think there's a propensity, like if you look at online reviews, you know, usually people are not inspired to comment unless they have a negative experience, right? And so it gets under my skin a little bit, I think, all of the complaining about officiating, because I don't necessarily feel like it's any different now than it is in the regular season or that it has been historically, except that, kind of like Greg says, we're inundated with technology now. We have 4K TVs. We have,
100 cameras.
100 cameras in the building. We have all of these different replay angles. And we're saying, how dare you miss this split millisecond play that happened when the puck was, to your right and the play was to your left? How dare you miss that when we can all see it this 37 times in slow motion? How could you? I think, to me, all it does is make what the officials do more impressive in my mind, that they can do it. And if you've ever officiated a hockey game, like I had a little bit when I worked at DU in college, it's not easy. You have to be looking for specific things, and these people are trained to do that. So while you're watching, the puck and the play develop, they are watching other things as well. And you got to give them credit for being in position to make calls. Sometimes there's weird stuff that happens. There was the puck that was on, who was it? Was it the Islanders? Was it on Sorokin's leg?
No, that was Alex Lyon.
Yeah, Alex Lyon. The puck on Alex Lyon's leg when Boston chipped that puck in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Lyon, for my viewpoint on television at home on my couch, the puck is on the far side of him from the official. And the official, I believe, is supposed to blow the play dead when they lose sight of the puck, right? So Lyon looks like he's made this save, and I guess the officials are looking at the players, and the players are still moving like they see the puck loose. So the play goes on, it's a goal, and I think, wow, that's interesting that wasn't blown dead, right? But benefit of the doubt of multiple replays, we see stuff like that. The other thing I think is that there's no easy solution to this. This problem, this perceived bad officiating situation. Wyshynki mentions putting guys out of the ice, off the ice, up in a box. I think that makes quite a bit of sense. Have an extra official up in the box that can see stuff. I think there was a couple things. Yanni Gourde got high-sticked in the game last night. No call. Does it result in a goal the other way or anything? No. Is a power play a difference maker when they're trailing? Maybe, right? I also thought Arturi Lehkonen just falls on top of Philip Grubauer. Maybe at the speed of action in front of you in real time, it looks like he's pushed, right? And then you watch the replay, and he basically is just like, oh no, I'm tripping, and falls on him. Could have been a penalty, but it's hard to fault what happens in real time, on these guys and say, oh, they're doing a bad job, or oh, they have it out for the fan base, or whatever. I would say maybe an exception to that is the Marcus Foligno situation.
Shouldn't the past tense of high stick be high stuck?
Sticked.
High stuck. No, I think you're right. I mean, the article really made it seem like, and Dave Jackson was interviewed in it as well, and I think he did great with his responses. But the takeaway for me is, again, they're doing their best. They do okay. Yes, there are some missed calls. Sure, there's some bad calls. But again, there's no real solution. Sure, you can add more reviews, but that's not necessarily good for the game. Another part that really stuck out to me that I feel, I guess, personally connected to was how he mentioned that when they're picking referees for the NHL, that size is a big part of it, right? I walk into that building a lot of times, Ball Arena, while the referees are warming up for the game. And I'm often taken back by like, wow, these guys are big. These guys look like, sometimes I'm like, is that an NHL player or is that a referee? These are big, young dudes that are ready to take on, the situations that referees fall in, which I guess, I don't really have a feeling about it one way or another, but it's something I've noticed firsthand, right? Walking into that building and it makes sense. You got 4 guys with stripes on in that rink against 10, 12 guys that you got to hold back. You need some strapping big guys that can handle themselves, along with guys that know the game and are well trained enough to be good referees. It's a certain person you're looking for, right? Me and you probably wouldn't make the cut as NHL referees, even though we're brilliant, even though we're geniuses when it comes to the NHL rules and the NHL game.
We see everything.
Yeah.
I think, too, you need guys who are athletic, who can be in position. That's a big thing. They need to be in position to see what's going on. Watch. I challenge everyone to watch what refs do, during a game. I think it's pretty impressive. One of the things I noticed in Game 5 at Ball Arena is somebody, I can't remember, I think it was Jaden Schwartz, loves to make this corner cut when he has the puck in the offensive zone, but he's always doing it right in front of the ref. And I'm always like, the dude is going to blast this ref into oblivion one of these times. It's just like the spot he's made. But watch where these guys are. Watch how they put themselves in position. And then keep in mind, playoffs are different. Hockey is different in the postseason. There's a lot less riff-raff kind of hockey stuff going on, unnecessary penalties occurring generally. But the pace of the game is the fastest and the strongest and the hardest and the most towing the linest you are going to get. These guys are going right up to the edge and trying to toe that line. And so it's going to create situations that are not black and white, that are gray, that are hard to call, that are hard to see in real time. It really is. And that's kind of the fact of the matter, is that, it's the game is upped, and so there are fewer opportunities. I like the point that sometimes, at least in overtime, officials are hesitant to make a call because they don't want to manage the game. And I think the number one easiest complaint, nitpicky complaint fans could have is the officials are trying to manage the game. They're trying to insert themselves into the game. They're trying to have an impact on that. So they spend all their time not doing that, and then there's an uproar about how they're not doing enough or they're letting too much go.
There's no right answer when it comes to referees.
I mean, if people could just complain less in general and everything would be fine.
In 15 seconds or less, how have you felt the Avs-Kraken series has been officiated so far?
I think it's been fine. I think it's gone both ways. I mean, we can get into the Cale Makar situation. We can get in the Jordan Eberle situation. I think the officiating has been the officiating, and it doesn't matter. The number one thing I'd point to is Nathan MacKinnon getting tripped, trip or not. He throws a tantrum. He doesn't change. The play goes the other way. It results in a goal. That's on your attitude.
Yeah, we'll get into it more in the next portion here. We're going to get into Cale Makar and Valeri Nichushkin with two Avalanche insiders. Stick around to find out who they are. This is the Hockey Show on Mile High Sports. We'll be right back. JJ Jerez, Ryan Bolden, Coach Bailey behind the glass.
Right now, it's 16 minutes past the big hour. Is that not right, Mr. Scream? Great, good stuff. I think people are getting really cranked.
Welcome back. The Hockey Show right here on Mile High Sports. It's actually funny that Danny Bailey threw this song in today because on my way over here, I was skimming through my satellite radio stations and this song came up.
And you skipped it.
And I said, oh, this is a song I haven't heard in a long time. This was popular in my high school days. Next.
I just live vicariously through my high school days music, so I probably would have listened to it.
Just sometimes you hear a song that you're like, this wasn't good back then. This isn't good now. Why is this a song that still is alive?
Wow, Danny. Wow, I appreciate your musical choices.
Versus all the songs that are so good out there from the past that you don't hear at all. Well, some of them never even made the radio. You know what I'm saying? I know you know.
We call those hidden gems.
Yeah, exactly. Jay-Z's got a whole library of them. Let's get into the Colorado Avalanche. Like I said, we've got two Avalanche insiders joining us. So welcome to the show, JJ and Ryan, Avalanche insiders. How you guys doing? Good. Thank you for having us. We're here, excited to talk about the Avalanche. First and foremost, I think the Cale Makar suspension was the talk of the week, right? Very hit or miss. I mean, black or white. A lot of different opinions, but basically it felt like 50-50 thought it was a penalty or a suspension-worthy penalty. The other 50 thought it was bogus. I guess, what say you, Ryan Bolden?
I think that you have to suspend the scenario regardless of intent. And I think that...
What scenario are you referring to exactly?
I'm talking about him hitting Jared McCann, hard, medium, or small. It doesn't matter. Well away from the puck. You know, is the play still live because no whistle has blown? Yes. But the play, for all intents and purposes, is dead because a fan in Tacoma, Washington is catching that puck at the moment of the hit, right? I understand Cale Makar's position, right? We know, I've said this before, this is a dude who literally waved off a penalty earlier this season when he was falling. It even looked like he got tripped, but he was like, no, I was falling, don't give him a penalty. And everybody in the entire hockey universe was like, what just happened? He said it himself. He doesn't go out there intending to hurt anybody. It was an unfortunate play. I think the competitive situation warrants him making a 50-50 decision, and that is he shot. I don't know where the puck is. He appears to know where the puck is. I have to play it like he's going to the puck because I cannot give up the competitive advantage by not doing so. Where, unfortunately, Jared McCann is not ready for a hit or contact because he knows the puck is out of play and he's just curling out. And he gets crushed and he gets hurt, and that's the unfortunate part about it. But I do think it's suspendable. You have to suspend a hit away from the play because if you do not, then it's open season.
I guess that's a take I haven't heard yet. My question to you, if Jared McCann pops up, there's no injury, there's nothing that happens, maybe a little post-whistle scrum because, hey, you hit my player, I'm going to come bully you. Do we still have a suspension then?
I don't think so, but the egregious lateness of the scenario, I think, is a factor in it, right? But I've seen a lot after what happened in Game 6 with Jordan Eberle. I've seen a lot of people say, what is even suspendable anymore? We don't know what the criteria is. Yes, you do. You do know what some of the criteria is, right? Some of it is intent, and some of it is injury. And whether you agree with it or not, if a player is injured, factors into a decision to suspend someone or not. And it has for a long time now.
It's like the common frustration for me in hockey is just the inability to keep it consistent based off different players' abilities or just personalities, right? You see it all the time in a men's league. A stick maybe hits somebody in the legs, and because that player isn't necessarily strong on their skates, they go down, penalty is called. The same stick hits maybe a faster, better skater in the legs, doesn't affect him at all, no call is made, right? I feel that's the same scenario here. Because McCann went down, because he hits his head and is out for a game or a few games, they have to have some repercussions. But then you look at Jordan Eberle, and because Andrew Cogliano is able to get back on the ice, finish the game, because that's just who he is. I mean, he reminds me of the guy from Austin Powers, right? Will Ferrell's character who just won't die. Why won't you die? That's Andrew Cogliano in a nutshell. And the fact that he came back to the game, it makes it feel like it influenced no suspension. Obviously, we don't know. We didn't hear that.
Because whether or not a player is injured on the play is a factor in suspension. And he came back, he returned to the game, he kept playing. So on the one hand, on a just looking at it from a competitive advantage or disadvantage in a game.
Before you get there, one hit was to the shoulder. Yeah. The other hit was behind.
He boarded Cogliano. It was an ugly play. Could it be suspendable? Yes. Right? But it resulted in a penalty. It resulted in a power play, and Andrew Cogliano returned. So what I'm saying, competitive advantage, disadvantage scenario here, right? McCann leaving the game permanently early. I mean, that's a major competitive disadvantage. I think that's part of it, right? Andrew Cogliano returning like he always does from some horrendous play. It's a miracle. That dude is like, what's that? Stretch Armstrong. He's just made of rubber, that guy. I mean, that it doesn't provide as much of a competitive disadvantage. Maybe he's not as capable of playing because he's hurt now. I don't know. I think he looked his normal self post that.
Which is broken and fighting through 100 injuries.
Still, I think that's a factor in it. I don't know that Eberle should or should not have been suspended for the play, but it was a penalty, and it was called a penalty, and luckily Cogliano wasn't hurt, and we know those are factors in it. Did Eberle intend to mess Cogliano up? I think that's hard to say. Watching the replay, you look at it and you're like, I don't know what he's expecting from Cogliano in terms of protection here, because Cogliano doesn't see him coming. He doesn't turn. It's just a bad play altogether. Whereas, Makar hits him in the shoulder. It's a clean hit, but it's an egregious interference penalty.
And an unfortunate result.
Yeah.
Which is out of anybody's control, and it's pure luck. So basically, we're leaving suspensions up to luck.
Advantage point of it.
Okay.
That I'm talking about. It's outside of just the immediate.
So in a freak accident where maybe you step on my stick and then you go down, you slam your head into the ice, you start bleeding out of your ears, suddenly I'm liable for a suspension?
No, but you can't hit a guy when the puck is landing up in the stands in the far corner. You just can't. I think that's as much sending a message to the rest of the league as anything. You cannot do this. Boarding, it is what it is, and it's dangerous, right? But it happens pretty regularly. You don't often see a guy just get crushed away from the puck for no reason. We know what the reason was, but you know what I'm saying?
I do. One thing's for certain, if they were to ever get this right, we'd have nothing to talk about. Look, we filled half the show already talking about referees and missed calls or calls.
And I want to say that just because one thing happened and then another thing happened does not make them equivalent, right? Enough with the false equivalency stuff. Enough with the whining about it. There is so much whining from media and fans, like, well, but this Cale Makar that, so Jordan Eberle this. Like, no, it's not. It's different scenarios. It's different games. It's probably different officials. Like in your mind, yes, there's a running ledger of equivalencies and everything has to line up to be perfect, but that's not how sport works. Yeah, I hear you on the consistency part. I do.
Right, and then throwing in power plays is really where it gets sticky, because you are giving a team an advantage based off your decision making, and so there's a direct effect on the game beyond just suspensions afterward, but live in the moment.
And let's tie this Makar situation back to the Greg Wyshynki article. 2019, the NHL empowered their officials to call a major, use video review to rescind a major to a minor, or to rescind it to no penalty whatsoever. So when Cale Makar goes up to the podium and says this is probably the first time in NHL history that a play went from no call to a 5-minute to a 2-minute to a suspension, I mean, maybe it's a fundamental lack of understanding that the rules have changed 5 years ago to allow this. And I do appreciate, in a review scenario, the officials saying, let's call this a major, let's look at the video, and decide what to do from there so we get it right. Right? And where did we see this? We saw this with the Matt Dumba hit on Joe Pavelski. Now, you don't have to agree that it wasn't a penalty-worthy play. You know, I think it's an ugly play. I thought it was interference because the timing was off. The officials did not, right? But they took the time to say, we're calling a 5-minute major. We're going to look at the video, and we'll rule from there. It's hard to argue against that methodology, right? Because they want to make sure that it's right. They want to make sure that they're not giving Colorado too large of a disadvantage for a play that maybe they barely saw because nobody expected Jared McCann to get hit there except for Cale Makar. And then they make a decision, right? So it didn't hurt the Avalanche in that game. It hurt them the next game when the league stepped in and said, well, you can't just hit a guy in the corner.
It's too bad we don't have more access to the conversations the referees have when they huddle together, right? Because I'd love to hear the, I think this. It's not like they all conjoin and they all are on the same page right out of the gate, right? I'd love to hear the back and forth to what leads them to come to the conclusions they come to.
When another scenario that happens is puck over the glass, right? Sometimes they get together and they're like, who saw what? Are we certain this didn't hit a stick, it didn't hit the glass, didn't hit the boards, it just went straight over? I mean, I know lots of fans hate the delay of game penalty, right? But on the same token, lots of people complain when it happens or doesn't happen. It's like, at least allow the officials, you know, the opportunity to discuss it and make a ruling from there.
Let's turn the corner here and shift gears to the other conversation, maybe the secondary conversation surrounding the Colorado Avalanche, and that's the Valeri Nichushkin situation, right? We all know the facts. We know what's out. Nobody's going to get informed by listening to us right here. What I want from you, Ryan, as a former team employee, a former sausage maker, as you will, you know, you've not only seen the sausage being made, you've made it yourself, having worked for the PR. I'm curious, the PR department. I'm curious what goes into a situation like this, right? Bad news, something that could possibly tarnish the image of the organization as well as the image of a player that they want to protect. You know, what goes on behind the scenes when a situation like this arises among the team?
Yeah, this one's tricky because I didn't work through any scandal larger than Patrick Waugh's abrupt resignation from the team.
What about Varley?
I didn't work for the team then.
Huh.
So, you know, it is, I think, a multifaceted situation that revolves around different approaches simultaneously. One of which is the standard for at least this organization, probably most, and that is we're going to say nothing, right? And I'm not necessarily sure it's their responsibility to say anything. You know, while this person was a member of the team and was representing the team to a degree, whatever is occurring in his personal time and situation, and there's crossover with the team, but it's not in official team capacity necessarily. You know, now if you are on you work for a company and you're on a company retreat somewhere and this same situation occurs with you, I mean, yes, it involves you as a representative of the company at some point, right? But I don't necessarily know that it's in their best interest to comment on, you know, and we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of criticism from the media in that Jared Bednar has to be the one who keeps coming out in front of this.
He's getting so frustrated.
But this is the organization's approach, right? Some organizations allow media to talk to assistant coaches. The Avalanche do not. They want one point to be liaising with the media, and that is the head coach. And everything from the organization funnels through him, right? Occasionally, you get to talk to the GM. Once upon a time, you even got to talk to Josh Kroenke. That hasn't been the case lately. But they're funneling the information through. And if you know, even on a game level, on a practice level, every media conference that Jared Bednar enters, he has been briefed on, here's what the media was asking in the locker room. Here are storylines we think are coming up. I mean, you can guarantee that every day he has been prepped on what to say if someone asks about Val Nichushkin. Now, when I worked for the team, I used to be involved in that process. And I would sit there and I would think, what's a question out of left field that I would try to come up with to catch you outside of your media prep? And then we would put that in the notes. And then I would read exactly what I typed up on a sheet of paper that came out of Patrick Waugh's mouth in the Denver Post the next day. He was that good at it. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into this behind the scenes, but one of them is it's not really our business. Now, I would say from a media perspective, if criminality is occurring,
which we've been told over and over and over that it's not,
at least charges haven't been filed on a criminal basis, and the reporting that's out there says that there isn't further investigation at this time, right? But if criminality was occurring and the team was covering it by saying personal leave, then there's an issue. But it also comes back to the representing the organization to a degree, right? And are they liable for anything? If there are legal proceedings that happen out of this somehow, some way, the fact that team personnel were or could have been involved, whether it's a doctor, whether it's security, police hired to be security on this trip, which we know those people were involved in this situation on one level. There could be legal culpability involved. So it's another reason to not comment, right? Mm-hmm. You just stay quiet and you let it play out. And so it's a tricky situation. I think it's also a conversation worth having because a lot of people seem confused about why this is a story or should be a story. I'm curious what your thoughts are on whether or not the team saying this is a personal issue, period, should be good enough for the media and the fan base or not.
Oh, that's sticky, right? I mean, that's a tough conversation to have. Once you start saying it's personal, there's part of me that says, okay, that could be just a cop-out. I'm not saying it is, but it could just be, let's just call it personal and see if we could sweep it under the rug that way. But there's also another part of me that wants to give people the benefit of the doubt. And okay, this is personal. We should maybe, it's look the other way for right now until we are given reason not to, right? I think that's really the way you have to approach it, is based off facts and based off information that you actually have. And until you have it, I don't know if you're, a lot of these guys are doing investigative journalism this past week, right? I've seen Arif get to work in a way he's never worked as a journalist covering the Avalanche. And I don't know at what point that needs to stop, right? How far do you really dig into this to try to uncover more things that are just going to potentially damage the player, damage the team, not to mention young guys like us still trying to make our way through this thorny career, aren't really looking to shake too many trees and bushes to see what comes out of it, because suddenly if you fall out of favor with the Avalanche, we've seen what happens in that scenario, right?
Well, and I think that's an issue, that could be discussed at length, but there is some fanalism, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, but that's I don't want to lose my access, I don't want to rock the tree, whatever the organization says is fine with me. And then there are the journalists, and those are the people that are going to say, right or wrong, there's a story, and it's newsworthy, and it needs to be told, regardless of whether that makes the organization angry or not. And when we're looking at back to the PR response side of things, right? What did the Avalanche do that we know of in the situation, right? They sheltered the player. They removed the player from the situation. They are protecting the player and protecting the organization now by saying nothing.
Lead the fifth.
And fans, I get it. There's a point where you're like, there's so much speculation running rampant now. Mm-hmm. It's out of control. They have no obligation to change that because they don't really care.
Yep.
They don't care what is it? The lion wolf doesn't care about the whatever chatter of sheep,
Something
whatever
like
that
that.
saying is.
Something like
I mean,
that.
that's kind of the thing. But I do think,
That's close.
outside of this PR conversation, I do think there are some interesting considerations here in this story that need further elaboration, right? One is Val Nichushkin was not at morning skate, and the media was told he was taking a maintenance day. Later, this situation unfolds in public domain, and he's whisked away. So does that mean that Val Nichushkin was AWOL from morning skate, and they had to go check on him and found this situation unfolding? I mean, that's a curious part of this that, is part of the story. And just this situation with this woman. Like the implication of her saying that somebody took her passport and is a bad person likely means that there's human trafficking involved. And human trafficking has a sex worker nature to it often, So there are a lot of moving parts here that are just curious.
Mm-hmm.
And this player signed a new 8-year contract worth a lot of money.
Do you think this is something that we get a little bit more information on maybe once the playoffs are over? They're not trying to let it be a distraction and they'll let us know later? Or is this going to be, are they just going to be silent, plead the fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth, the rest of the way?
I think silence. I mean, you saw it with Semyon Varlamov, and that was a very ugly situation. And I have to point out for the people who forget that no charges were filed against him, and he won.
You didn't cover Steve Downey?
I didn't work for the team then.
Are you sure?
Yeah. There were no charges filed against Varlamov in this domestic abuse situation, and she sued him in civil court and lost and had to pay him money. So, it's a different situation there, but it's a situation nonetheless where mum was the word. Period.
And we can expect it to continue to be, I guess. But JJ, Ryan, thanks for hanging out with us today. Great conversation. Pleasure having you.
Thanks, guys.
So, yeah, there you have it. Our 2 cents on the situation. Of course, we are on the inside. So I figured instead of having guests today, I really wanted to pick your brain and get that side of it because they have a job to do as well. They have a problem on their hands, and it's just interesting to take a step back and see how everybody's handling themselves through this, including the team, coach, players, and the media as well.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch.
All right, well, stick around. I think we're going to cut it short. We're not going to do 4 segments today. We're going to stick with 3. So we're going to look around the rest of the league here in the next portion. And if we finish quick, maybe we could have some fun and talk about whatever. Or we could just complain about 7:30 p.m. starts on a Sunday.
And the refs.
So thanks for hanging out with us here on the Hockey Show at Mile High Sports. Catch us on all platforms. Catch us live on Twitch. Catch us on YouTube, podcasts, anywhere. JJ Jerez, Ryan Bolden. We'll be right back.
Let's go, Colorado!
Waiting for a good day to happen,
He nailed it.
That was well done, Danny Bailey.
Nailed it.
I just said, look.
Best producer on Mile High Sports.
Absolutely.
Best producer in Denver. I'll give it to you.
I will too. I nominate him. Do we get votes?
You guys are too kind.
Yeah, we get 3 votes.
It is going to be a good day, isn't it?
All in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, there we go.
You didn't say aye.
I did.
Oh. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Denver. It's a beautiful Saturday. Hope everybody's having a good day out there. But some people aren't having a good day because they are now eliminated from the NHL playoffs. Maybe they are having a good day and they're out golfing and nursing some of their injuries. We know, especially on the Jets, there are some pretty bad injuries. And Jets are the first team eliminated from the playoffs. No surprise there because they were the ones we were watching. Are they going to lose this? Are they going to let Nashville pass them? Calgary was out of the picture, but Winnipeg backed their way in the playoffs. We knew that. The Islanders, also now eliminated from the playoffs. Same story with those guys, right? I think the Wild might be the little bit of a surprise here, but I think the bigger surprise is the way Carolina was able to handle the Islanders. The Hurricanes were coming in with a handful of injuries, very depleted.
I mean, they lost guys, too. Tuva Teravainen broke his hand in the series.
Right. And goaltending was still a question mark, right? We saw Freddie Anderson play his first game in a while yesterday. Just a lot of moving parts with the Carolina Hurricanes that led me into this playoffs. Like, I don't believe in them as much as I do normally. Last year, I picked them to be in the finals. This year, I did not. But I guess my question to you, what was the bigger surprise for you? Carolina handling the Islanders the way they did, or the Wild maybe not having the playoff showing that we thought that they were going to have coming into the playoffs?
I guess if I have to pick between those two things, I'm going to say the Wild, but it's not the reason that you think, and it's what Dallas did to them. To me, is the most surprising thing. I feel like for a long time, whether it was Rick Bowness as head coach or Pete DeBoer as head coach, Dallas is this like two-faced club, this bipolar club where they are either on their game and they're scoring 7 goals against the Avalanche, or they're not on their game and they're not scoring goals. And so you look at this series started, and you're like, man, these two teams were close in the standings. They're going to hate each other by the end of this. They're pummeling each other in game 1. You know, there's penalties, there's villains, there's heroes, there's enemies. And then there were notable absences. Kirill Kaprizov didn't do much. You know, credit to Dallas for that, too. It's not just him not scoring, right? You look at Nathan McKinnon in this series against Seattle, and he has struggled at times, and he has performed at times. But sometimes when he's struggling in Game 5 at home, I mean, his first 2 shots of the game, he missed the net wide on both of them. So to some degree, if Nathan McKinnon finishes the game with no shots, and you're like, well, yeah, some of them he just flat out missed. It's not all what the team is doing to him, but some of it is.
Yeah, I mean, in Game 5, he went into the third period with 4 shots on goal. And you're like, all right, the Avalanche have a chance to still take this game over. You're going to see McKinnon get to work. He ended the game with 4 shots on goal, 0 throughout that third period.
Yeah.
He's getting shut down. Credit to the Kraken for the way they're playing him.
And credit to Dallas for the way that they played Minnesota. But Kaprizov got hurt toward the end of the season. Matt Boldy stepped up. The team leaned on him heavily. I think there were some deficiencies there. You saw them. You know, the team made a questionable decision in going to Marc-Andre Fleury in the middle of the series. Didn't go well. They went to him last night. I mean, they lost, so it didn't go well, but it wasn't as poor of a showing for him, which you like to see. I like him as a goalie, but it does make you wonder on some level, career-wise, does he still have it? But I think the unfortunate thing is that the winner of Game 7 between the Avalanche and the Kraken are going to play Dallas, and Dallas is resting now. They played a very physically
as they're known to do
season and series, and now they're waiting while the Avalanche, who are clearly beat up, have to play one more game, and the Kraken, who are also likely beat up, have to play one more game. That's trouble. You know, to me, though, like you said, the Jets backed into the playoffs, the Islanders backed into the playoffs to a degree. Those aren't surprising, but what surprised me about the Jets was that Vegas was the first team to eliminate anyone from the postseason, and Vegas went in as the number 1 seed in the West and stomped the number 8 seed and said, that's it, you're going home, period. There was no messing around there, and we are not seeing that hardly anywhere else in the playoffs.
Yeah, well said, absolutely. And Winnipeg was the team that a lot of people were saying, oh, they're going to come out and they're going to stomp the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't know what they're doing over there in Vegas. They got a lot of injuries. Jack Eichel's not going to perform, but Bruce Cassidy played Bruce Cassidy-style hockey, and I think Vegas really showed, hey, we're still here.
And Rick Bowness said he was disgusted with his players after the series, that his top players got outplayed. A little bit of drama in Winnipeg. He said today he plans on coming back. He's not going to retire or anything like that. But large question marks there. I saw Greg Wyshynki say, you know, if there's a cancer there and you bring in a new coach and the cancer's still there, what do? Blow it up? Might be the situation there.
Could just be the style of coaches they're going after, right? They're going after these old school, old mindset coaches. Enough about the teams that have been eliminated. Let's look at teams that might be eliminated today. 3 games today. All can force a Game 7, of course, since it's Game 6. Who's going home? Who's going to Game 7?
I can't predict these anymore. I feel like every time you look at Toronto and you're like, they're going to put the hammer down and get out of the first round, they lose. You know, every team where you're like, they're going to put the hammer down. Boston, they're going to put the hammer down and win. They don't. So I think Edmonton, LA is very likely to go to Game 7. I think the Rangers, this is the hardest one for me. Often I don't bet on this game because I'm just like, I don't know. I thought the Rangers were firmly in control, and they've let New Jersey back, and now it's a crapshoot. I think the Rangers go to Game 7. And then it's a coin toss, just like I think Seattle and Colorado is a coin toss. And then what's the other one I'm missing here? Tampa Bay, Toronto. I mean, you'd think Toronto would come out with the fire of 1,000 suns and get it done, but they just haven't.
They haven't.
So now I don't know.
Series.
You can't. Tampa Bay is a team you can't let hang around, right? Just like the Avalanche in any game, playoffs or not, it's a team you can't let hang around. These guys can erase a deficit quickly. In Tampa, they can shut it down. They can just do that thing. They have the experience. I don't necessarily know that they have all the talent they need to go all the way, but could you imagine if they go to a fourth straight Stanley Cup final?
I mean, we're seeing from the Avalanche firsthand just how hard that is to do, right? Even just to go to 2 back-to-back. I mean, to do it in 4 times in a row is insanity. So,
and you want to give the Avalanche, I'll give them just a little bit of a pass here, because last year was the latest Stanley Cup final in NHL history.
The Lightning played in it too.
They did, right? But this season, that season started late, went long. This year started on previous time, and so it was one of the shortest off seasons also, right? And like I've said many times, the more that we've talked to players, the more we've discovered how many of them entered this season injured. Even Jack Johnson casually threw out right before the playoffs started that he had a surgical procedure, and the further he gets away from the day of that operation, the better he feels he's playing, right? And you're just like, man, everybody had surgery, had an injury.
I think of today's games, it feels like Edmonton is the most in control. It could easily go to 7, you're right, but it doesn't seem like LA is putting up the fight I thought they were going to. And I think that's because of their goaltending. Korpisalo just hasn't been a playoff caliber goalie, and I thought he'd step up a lot more. But it really comes down to an overtime. I think it was Game 4 that went into overtime for the Edmonton-LA series. And the Kings had the lead up 3-0, lost it, goes to overtime, and they lose in that overtime. And suddenly it felt like in a matter of 1 hour's time that the Kings had full control of the series to suddenly having zero control of the series, right? And you can see the same in the Avalanche-Seattle series. That Game 4 that went to overtime, and then a penalty was called. Here we go, circling right back around to the refs having an impact on the game. A penalty was called. Seattle scores, and suddenly it went from the Avalanche having full control of that series to, oh my goodness, the Avalanche have their backs against the wall and are facing elimination themselves.
I mean, what was it? Thursday's media availability just felt like a funeral around town.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like it was over.
The importance of one OT game.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I kind of disagree. I think LA has been giving more of a fight than I expected just in this matchup in general.
They can't get a stop. They can't.
Right, and that's the trouble. We've seen Linus Ullmark gave up 4 goals in a game like twice all season. It's done 3 times in this Boston Florida series. Goaltending is huge. It definitely is. I think the Avalanche are bounced way earlier without Georgiev in net. But LA, I mean, they have the defensive system to make it work, and they have the lethal firepower to be opportunistic and make it work. Edmonton might not have a Vander Kane. I'm guessing he's going to be a gamer and play through whatever's bothering him, but he is hurt. We saw the detriment that having a player like Leon Draisaitl hurt for Edmonton last year in the postseason was like. And he's a huge part. Evander Kane is a huge part of that offense. So, it's a war of attrition out there, and the healthiest team is going to win. These are going to be some wild games tonight, I think.
Absolutely. I believe in momentum in a series. I know other people don't, that each game lives in a vacuum, but I disagree. I think the human psychology is something to consider in a situation like this. But that brings us to Game 7s. We have 2 of them going on tomorrow. It's my heavy metal for Game 7s. I don't know why I threw that in, but What
I like the energy.
Are you excited for these Game 7s? I mean, Boston, Florida,
How could you not be?
I mean, yeah. I think you can be in the sense that you don't think that maybe Florida has a shot. You don't think the Avalanche are going to play their game. That's what I would think would be reasons to not be excited about it. Because look what we've seen from Colorado at home this entire series. No answers to what they've been able to what the Seattle Kraken are throwing at them. Yesterday was the first time we felt like they actually were able to play their game. And then Boston, just while it's Game 7, still seems like they're confident. They know they're the better team, and they're going to get right through this hiccup.
I keep waiting for Boston to put their skate on the throat of the Panthers, and they do not do it. What I'm watching for is the best team in the NHL this season and the best team in NHL history, according to statistics, going to lose to the 8 seed Florida Panthers. If they do, wow, Paul Maurice. Wow. Great job. Right? For the Avalanche game, is Seattle going to score first for a 7th straight game? If you're an Avalanche fan, you probably are pretty upset about that. But just as a hockey fan, it's pretty incredible what they're doing there, right? Mm-hmm. And is Seattle going to be able to put it all on the line and do the thing or not, right? We know that the Avalanche, when they are playing their game, are the better team. They are the higher seed. Therefore, this season has dictated that they are the better team. But I don't know. It's a coin toss. And every goal matters, every shift matters, every penalty matters, and all 4 of these teams have to throw everything on the line to win. And what does that do to the winning team, having had to do that before moving on to the next round, right? When you go all out to get into the next round, is there detriment there? Does that boost the team? You know, we found it. We found our gear. We had success. We know what we need to do, and we're going to carry that into the next round. I don't know.
Can you imagine a world where the Avalanche, the Lightning, and the Bruins are all eliminated in the first round?
In a world where the Avalanche, Lightning, and Bruins were all eliminated in the first round, one team emerged. The Carolina Hurricanes.
All right. I think that's a good place to stop our show.
That was my trailer guy voice. How was that?
That was pretty good.
That was good? Yeah.
It was all right.
You just said it was good and then all right.
Yeah, good, not great.
Man, this guy's a flip-flopper.
Good, not great.
More than adequate?
More than adequate.
That's what she said.
Hit us with the outro music, Danny. Let's start wrapping this puppy up. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us.
We're done. We're going to let the 4th line carry us out here.
Right. It's time for the second round. Next time we're here, we'll be discussing the second round. Whether or not the Avalanche will still be involved, who knows? But 7:30 p.m. starts tomorrow. Everybody, have some coffee, have a nap. Make sure you're ready to go because those babies are running late.
The game will be on TNT, Root Sports Northwest, Altitude TV, here in the Americas.
Thank you for hanging out with us today.
TVA Sports in Canada.
You done?
We'll see you there.
In a world.
See, it's fun.
For Ryan Bolding, I'm JJ and Danny Bailey behind the glass. We'll see you later.